Well, welcome everybody. Let's go to the moon. So I keep getting these brochures from intergalactic travel agencies, recommending vacations on the planet Earth. And they're not talking about our cool waterfalls and our cool giraffes and elephants. What they talk about is the total solar eclipses. That's what really distinguishes Earth from all of the other travel destinations in the galaxy. Because on the Earth, we have this incredibly unusual situation where first, Earth is actually a double planet. That's really the right way to think about it. The moon is so big in relationship to the Earth's diameter that it's actually like two worlds revolving around each other. Generally, a planet is much, much more massive and bigger in diameter than the moon. So we've got a big moon relative to the size of our own planet. But the coolest thing is the moon right now is at the exact distance from the Earth where its angular diameter in the sky, just how big it looks in the sky, is almost precisely the same as the diameter of the sun. It hasn't always been like that through the history of our solar system. Moon was like way back in the days of the dinosaurs, it was considerably closer, and so it loomed larger. And there'll be a time when the moon is further away. Eventually the moon will disappear from the solar system. We don't have to worry about that. At least not immediately. If you believe in reincarnation, though, start sweating. Life without a moon, what will that be? Well, we'll have actually some answers to that question, but right now, moon and sun, the same diameters, visually in the sky. Of course, the sun is much bigger really, but the way it looks, they're the same. So every month, moon orbits the Earth, where we get the word month, of course. And typically, the moon is going to pass just a little under the sun or a little bit above it. But every now and then, they just line up perfectly. For those of you with some technical astrological knowledge, when the plane of the moon's orbit intersects with the ecliptic, we have the nodes of the moon. When a conjunction of sun and moon occurs near the nodes of the moon, you're going to have a total solar eclipse or a total lunar eclipse, or at least a partial one, because they're lined up with each other. Now, the reason I'm saying all this, sun and moon in equal apparent size, and sometimes the moon can eclipse the sun. So we have these two very different energies that in the metaphor or the poetry of the sky, we get the underlying message, these two are of equal size, which is to say equal significance, equal importance, equal power, equal relevance to human consciousness. And since the beginning of human time, humans have found themselves saying things like this. Logically, I know I should do this, but my guts are telling me I should do that. I mean, we've all been there a million times. It's so human. And we've all learned that it's very dangerous to ignore logic, but it's also very dangerous to ignore hunches, to ignore the heart. What a mistake it would be to let either one totally eclipse the other. And yet they argue. It's like we have these two different beings in our heads. Sometimes the sun wants to make an ass out of itself. You've perhaps noticed that in the mirror. I know I have, as we're too logical for our own good. Just too logical for our own good, ignoring the hunches, which can be catastrophic. Or maybe pride, which is a solar function. Ego, in a nutshell, gets ahead of us. Or we're just so focused on the task, whatever the task is, that we lose sight of other things that are going on. This is the sun making an ass out of itself, and it happens a lot of the time. And then the thing we're calling the moon will pipe up inside us and say to the sun, I have a bad feeling about this. And maybe the sun listens. Maybe our sun function has become wise enough to pay attention to that. And the sun says, thank you, thank you. Maybe the moon wants to make an ass out of itself. That happens a lot too, as our hearts lead us down the garden path. You know, the famous seemed like a good idea at the time, you know. And then the sun pipes up and says the famous words, now be reasonable, dear. You know, let's think this one through. Logically, where will this lead us? And then the moon listens and says, thank you. And the sun and the moon work the way a good marriage would work, or a good partnership, where each person listens to the other one and realizes, you see the world differently than I do. Thank you. We're stronger together than we would be alone. As sun and moon form a complementarity, again, like a good partnership or a good marriage. Or the way the branches of our government are supposed to work, alleged to work, each keeping an eye on the excesses of the other. Sun and moon in balance with each other. These two equal but very different entities. Now, already discovering something that will be a theme all through this program, it is that we cannot really deeply understand the moon without simultaneously meditating upon the sun. They sort of define each other, like we can't really understand hot without cold, or wet without dry, or old without young, or male without female.